If there is one thing that any fan of manga will be hyped for, it's seeing their favorite arc on the screen and done justice at that. Maybe you're a World Trigger fan like me and you have finally been able to watch the final Rank War rounds. Or maybe you're a One Piece fan and you have been absolutely feasting with the incredible episodes of Wano, especially 1015. My Hero Academia is one of, and if not, my favorite series to date. From watching the anime from the beginning to seeing all the movies with friends, it is surely a series that has brought so many memorable experiences. The Paranormal Liberation War arc has been called so many things within the series. For some, it's the game changer, and for others, it's this story's version of Infinity War. This arc alongside the last of the Rank Wars were the two arcs that I have been waiting to see for years now, and as of now, both arcs have concluded their anime adaptations. As we head into the Villain Hunt arc, today I thought we'd slow down and discuss my overall criticism and enjoyment of the anime's adaptation for the War arc. On both sides of the scale, I have quite a bit to say, but we're gonna approach this as classy as possible. Now, to kick this dialogue off, let us begin with the all-out brawl in the Nomu lab as we head towards the main event. The first chunk of this war is the pros taking big action to prevent the worst case scenarios. Animators Yuki Hayashi and Norimitsu Suzuki were practically high-fiving each other as every other week they would take turns giving some love to Mirko as she took on an onslaught of near high-end Nomu. I think this section of the war was without a doubt the most surprising section for people. I don't even think manga readers expected it to look as good and go as hard as it did. Guess it really goes to show that people just really like Mirko, and even some of the Nomus got some cool sequences. We also can't forget Present Mike in that smooth like butter animation of Shigaraki falling out of his capsule. As a particular critique, this happens to be about the Shigaraki dream sequence. Now all in all, the sequence was actually pretty solid as I found myself wondering how Studio Bones would approach it. However, I wish there was a little bit more ambition when it comes to taking advantage of the space itself. There are only so many times an author might create an environment that is very unique within a story. I would have liked to see some innovation and possibly a take on some character animation with Shigaraki as he moves within the realm. In short, go beyond with what we already have and make it more special if possible. Again, this is more of a want just given the fact that we may not ever get something as creative as this ever again. Overall, a really strong kickoff for the War arc and one of MHA's strongest showcases for back-to-back Sakuga. As for Hawks vs Twice, I also enjoyed this section quite a bit. This encounter was going to be more about how it was directed and supported with strong art, VA performances, and OST usage. This episode included a pretty graphic result of Twice and began the special ending trend with Toga losing one of her closest allies. The encounter overall is one of the biggest and most important things that happen in the series and adds a lot of question towards the morals of heroism and where the line is drawn for heroes. As far as the anime only reactions go, it seems that the message has gotten across, but even then, the question remains of what can be done to fix something like killing a villain in which only Horikoshi can deliver that answer. The main event is what I consider everything from the moment Shigaraki wakes up till Dabi's dance heading into the climax. From the moment Shigaraki woke up, the destructive nature of his power-up followed. As usual, the showcase of mass destruction of his newly leveled up Decay quirk was really great, and I also really enjoyed the way the atmosphere was produced as the impending arrival of Decay was approaching. I also appreciated the display of the Search quirk that was stolen back in Season 3 as it has never really been visually shown to be used in action until it landed in Shigaraki's hands. I also want to take a moment to say kudos to those who worked on Shigaraki pulling up on Deku and Bakugo in the fear of death scene. Horikoshi has always had a strong point with the way he draws hands and the weight to their movements. You can really feel it in this scene, and I think this moment did the original art a lot of justice. From the midpoint of the war, we are pretty much split into two different battle zones. The first being the pros and R1 duo versus Shigaraki, while the rest of Class 1A and Class 1B do their best to take on Gigantomachia. Starting with the classes versus Machia, this was overall a pretty solid section, especially with the OST usage. There really wasn't the need for anything too crazy action-wise, but if anything, needed to do the Kirishima and Mina scenes justice. The Mina scene was solid, though I wish we could have went with the color page depiction of Acid Man, as that would have given it a bit more life to the new move, but I suppose the team wanted to keep consistent from what they have already established in terms of the color of her acid. As for the Kirishima moment, yet again, the art lived up to the manga as sharp as possible. On top of that, we got Yusei run back in the anime after it has not been played for God knows how long now. The only complaint that I do have is that towards the end, the scale of Machia going on a rampage with his mole quirk was a lot more epic and doomfelt in the manga in comparison to the anime. This most likely has to do with the atmosphere as well, but I'll come back to that later. As for the main showdown against the Symbol of Fear, this is when things began to get a little shaky for the anime. One thing that I thought really hurt the first chunk of the battle was the awkward lag between the hits on Shigaraki. The speed of the dialogue being just a bit too slow took away from the overall kinetic beatdown that was being delivered, and you can really feel the slight pauses between each hit. There is also the issue with MHA's really weird inconsistency when it comes to censoring. I would have appreciated the team keeping consistent with the brutality from Mirko towards Deku when it came to him breaking Shigaraki's jaw within the anime. To make it worse, the censoring was hitting like an on and off switch within the fight. We see Gran Torino get bodied and Ryukyu even dug through, and yet the main character can't have that equal level of brutality. I'm not sure what dictates MHA's censoring outside of a few ideas from the station it airs on to possible production changes overall, but it can feel really annoying for manga readers and rob anime onlys of that brutal vision Horikoshi had in mind. Now on to the most controversial episode in this core, aka Katsuki Bakugo Rising. Look, I'll come clean and just say it, there are some things I really liked about the episode, but overall I was a little bit disappointed as a huge fan of Deku, and this being one of the best chapters in PLW. What made this episode so controversial was the overall action sequence of Deku playing Yo-Yo of Shigaraki. Every single hit delivered by Deku needed to hit as hard as if we saw Deku deliver the final blow against Overhaul for the first time. Yet that was not what happened, and instead it was only really the Texas Smash and the St. Louis Smash that really delivered the weight behind each punch. Wyoming Smash was memed so bad, especially on Twitter, it was practically unbearable. You can tell that there was a good vision for the episode, but overall something fell apart behind the scenes. As to what, well, it can be anyone's guess, but this is the biggest moment of the arc involving your main character. Ideally, you want to put a few more coins in your basket for the sake of insurance for a big moment like this. It also did not help that everyone was kind of banking on the legendary animator Yutaka Nakamura to show up on this episode, but his absence only kind of made things more frustrating for the community. Now my thing is this, I am not sure as to what decides what animators works on an episode. Some might seek to work on an episode, while others may be requested to work on an episode or even asked to work on a future episode. With that in mind, I'm not sure how fair it is to feel like an episode is a bust just because an animator didn't work on it. It kind of feels like you're undermining the talent that did contribute to some of the good portions of the episode. However, in the face of everyone's frustration, I thought I'd just hold off and come to the understanding that this is once again most likely the result of MHA having to come back and air every single year. In an alternate timeline where MHA gets more time to prepare in comparison to its peers, I can imagine things will live up to a lot more hype and consistency, but that is not the reality we live in. On the bright side though, the following episode being The Ones Within Us was an absolutely perfect episode. Toga and Ochako's confrontation got some great art and scenery, and also huge props to Ochako's dub voice actress as well because that performance was really good. For my anime only folks, this plotline will return a MHA story climax as a whole, so make sure not to forget it. From this point onwards, we steadily arrive at the end. The climax of this war in one way can be described as a good chunk of reveals. I don't think I need to say much for Dabi's dance. It was peak Kino fire or whatever positive adjective you want to call it. VA performance was out of this world, and the art and animation down to the character movements knocked it out of the park. Of course, the one gripe I have being the atmosphere, but again, we will come back to that at the end. From there, we have Best Genius returning with a sick plane jump sequence. Mirio absolutely supermaning it all with a return that had anime onlys rejoicing, and Mr. Compress climbing people's charts for the best looking character, all while the brawl was reaching its climax. There were a lot of good moments from the final section of the war, from the Todoroki brothers going at it to Deku making some sick moves with Froppy style. We also got Might Plus You in the anime again, which was quite a surprise because I did not expect to hear that song till the end of the series, if anything. A really strong last episode with the conclusion of the war, and overall conveys the feeling of defeat with the villains escaping. For what it's worth, I enjoy PLW. Even with the critique in mind, the good parts were great and the in-betweens were solid, all things considered. However, the atmosphere of a situation will always be MHA's biggest issue. The MHA community and a lot of casual fans in general are not fond of the blue sky background. Atmosphere is extremely important within a scene. What you are trying to depict or convey can easily strike the audience in the desired spot when elevated by a background that can support the scene. A prime example of this will be the Hero Killer Stain's last speech back in season 2, and we got that red bloodlusted atmosphere that struck our cast frozen. I think one thing that could have really helped this war visually was for it to be not so open blue sky. The time period being the morning is not an issue, but the weather can be, especially when there is nothing to be taken advantage of. Imagine if it was the morning but say dark and cloudy and the final bits of the war was a storm coming in. Dabi's dance could have had thunder in the background for dramatic sake, and the war final episode could have led to rain falling on the defeated heroes, making the scene even more tragic for the rescue of civilians in the following episode. I think the frustration lies in the fact that it can feel very jarring to the audience when something intense is going on but you don't feel that maximum tension because of the atmosphere. Granted, one could say that Horikoshi may have needed to experiment with more background atmospheres, from rain to dark and cloudy days, or even the red sky evening we got back in the season 4 finale. Whatever the vision may be, I think this will always be a huge gripe from many people. As we head into Core 2, I can only hope that the staff can hold on and deliver the change of not only pace but the atmosphere for the upcoming events. It is a lot darker and emotional, so hopefully those characteristics are keyed in on. With that being said, I do appreciate the staff for what they were able to produce with PLW. Could it have been better in different areas? Well, absolutely, and there is always a discussion discussion to have about when things could be better. However, as we know, MHA is always going to keep coming back each year, and as the staff has been able to maintain a manageable routine, I can't see myself constantly upset with the anime. Now, this isn't to say that I do not want better for it, but I have just come to the realization that this is how things are going to proceed to the end, and while I may not agree with it, I cannot change reality with a snap of my finger, so staying angry all the time will do me no good. I do hope people understand though that those who are constantly upset with the anime are not haters, but just like me, want better for it and may critique it harder in their own way. It is very easy to react to something negative, especially when you are a fan of that said thing. Though I suggest before reacting to a criticism about the MHA anime, try to understand somebody's perspective and ideas before responding. Overall, in my opinion, a solid core 1 with a few notable hiccups, but still managed to deliver me something that I enjoyed and allows me to cross another favorite arc off my list. That's pretty much it for me though. As always, thank you for watching, and make sure to leave all your thoughts, ideas, and critiques on the war arc in the comment section down below. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you guys in the next video.